How do you continue with your sex life when you have kids? Now, this is great, Tempest, and I really think that this depends on your needs and your partner's needs, right? So if you have kids and no steady partner, then it becomes about your needs. But if you have kids and you have someone that you're in a committed relationship with, now it becomes about your kids' needs, your partner's needs, and your needs. And you really have to try to strategize on how to get those things met. Because, see, it is difficult at the end of the day to figure out what everybody's going to eat, right? But we know everybody needs food and that we've got to come up with some solutions and strategies to put food on the table. Well, I challenge you to think of sex as being the same way. So, what can I do to enjoy sex more when I have a bunch of kids running around? And what can I do to help my partner still feel appreciated and still meet their sexual needs while a bunch of kids are running around? And I think ultimately, if you start to think of it as a necessity like food, it's like fertilizer for the relationship, right? You get a plant, you start a garden, you don't put any fertilizer on it or water on it, that damn plant is going to die, right? But you can bring it back. It will brown and it'll fall apart and it will look damn near dead. But before you throw it out, if you put a bunch of water on it and start tending to it, it can come back. Well, relationships are the same way. That sexual piece won't keep two people together, but it will break y'all up. It's very clear about that. The sex part needs to start to be considered almost as important as figuring out, okay, well, we got needs, everybody has to eat, everybody has certain needs, that the one of you has sexual needs, hopefully both of you, and if not, we have to meet those. So first thing you got to do, Tempest, is change the way you're thinking about it. That's really it. Change the way that you don't think of it as like a chore or something that's, going to be terrible, because once you get started, you actually do enjoy it. But to think of it as a necessity, a fertilizer for the relationship. And think of it like this: if you don't fertilize the relationship, then just like that plant, the relationship will die. It just, so if you start to think of it like that, that becomes the first step. And then the other pieces become easier to manage, whether it's because it's vaginal dryness down there because you're on birth control, or maybe it's because you've changed, the sensitivity of everything has changed and they don't know how to suck on your nipples anymore. So guess what? Now is the perfect opportunity to explain that and to re-demonstrate how you want to be touched and how you want to be satisfied. So if you start by flipping the thought process on it so that it's not necessarily, oh, well, a relationship doesn't really need this, so I'll just figure it out later. But to think, you know what, my relationship really needs this. Sex kind of is the glue that kind of can glue people together in particular ways. If that sex piece was there in the beginning and it's not there now, that's a problem. If sex was never there and it's still not there, that's not as big of a problem because it was never a thing, right? But if it was a thing, we've got to come up with strategies. So I have a template or a letter that I'm going to share with you, because a handwritten note is the best way to start this. Not a text message, not a typed up letter, but a handwritten note to your person about what's going on here. Why can't we connect sexually? What do we need to do to figure out how to put fertilizer back into the relationship? Or is this it? Because at the end of the day, this may be it. You may have decided you checked out of the thing and you're not interested in sex anymore. If that's the case, I want to know, right? You want to know so that you can figure out what your next step is. Because honestly, if you commit to somebody at the age of 25 or 30 and you've committed to foreverness, do we get to foreverness at the age of 45 and 35 if there's no sex involved? Right? Eugene says, and a lot of you may be experiencing this if you're married, children were more important to my wife than her husband. Other issues as well. Preconditioning sex opportunities upon her terms. So it sounds like she may be holding back on sex based off of what's happening in the household. And, I'll tell you, sex is the biggest commodity exchange that ever existed, right? And I'm not necessarily just talking about prostitution or being a call girl. I mean, being in a relationship and having and the sex piece, and you have one partner who really enjoys sex, sex should be used in a positive way and not in a negative way. You know, so for instance, think about it. If you and your partner had a great sex life, would that partner be as moody, right? Because technically, what I've noticed about men, and since I've been servicing the male population as a physician for so long, is that if you start to withhold sex for whatever reason, you're creating an irritated, passive aggressive partner. So, what you should consider doing instead is, instead of using sex as like a punishment, how about using it in a positive way, like as a reward? Because we cannot get away from the fact that it is a commodity exchange, right? We have great sex. I feel more like taking out the trash. We have great sex. I feel more like spending money on that great gift you asked me for, so it's okay if we want to use it in a way that stimulates positive energy and development, but what you don't want to do is start to use it as a weapon, because you may think you're the only person who realizes it, but your husband or your partner is not dumb, and they recognize that it is being used to manipulate them, and that makes people even angrier. So now you've got a person who is sexually deprived, who you haven't really touched or pleasured in any way in a really long time, and you got bills to pay and work to be done around the house, and now that person is sulking around the house and is pissed off and disconnected, and you're wondering why. And you kind of know why, but you don't want to admit it, because to admit it would mean that you got to make some changes. Change is a tough thing. Change is really hard. But honestly, if you decide to make the change to integrate a little bit more sex into your relationship and more intimacy, then the relationship can only do one thing, which is improve. And so the bad thing about sex is, if you don't use it, you'll lose it.